Yatsuya was a miserable, lonely, useless loser who hated everyone at school and thought that his life was absolutely worthless. But before he knew it, he was teleported into a video game world with a cheat leveling system to slay the strongest monsters in existence. As he fell into the water, he discovered that he was surrounded by hungry, disgusting monsters, so he began swimming away. Before long, he came across Shindu and Hakazaki, who were students from his class, and soon realized that some weird crap was happening. When he looked behind him, he found a useless, haunting, faceless weirdo who called himself the Game Master. Mr. Sharknadoed Face began telling him that he was trapped in the world of a video game, and that their only way of getting out was by fulfilling the village chief's request within 14 days. When Yatsuya wondered how he stuffed breakfast into his ugly pit face, the Game Master told them that they had 8 quests left to complete their mission. But with each quest that was completed, a new student would join their group. Having said this, he introduced Hakazaki as a warrior, but called her the most useless brain-dead warrior he had ever seen. Afterwards, he introduced Shindu as a wizard of the wind, who was a 3rd-ranked magician, but was totally useless and with 0 magical abilities. For Yatsuya's own ability, he decided to spin a fortune wheel, but when it fell to a farmer, the girls realized that he would be a horrendous loser in this world, the same way he was in the real world. When the Game Master vanished, Yatsuya decided to check his stats and discovered that he was a 1st-ranked farmer. However, his abilities were so bootless that he could not grow a corn if he tried. He wondered why he was so unlucky to be chosen as a farmer and thought that his boring, horrendous reality was quickly infecting this new world. However, he became saddened by the thought of returning to school, since he was a useless, lazy kid that only cared about playing video games. Before long, they spotted some goblins in the bushes, so Yatsuya summoned his sickle and began running towards them. But he missed, and a goblin broke his sickle. Determined to eliminate them, he decided to ask Shindu to join in support, so she summoned her staff. However, Yatsuya was still eager to end them, so he asked Hakazaki to attack the goblin, but the frightened girl threw her sword. Realizing his opportunity, Yatsuya tried picking up the sword, but it was invisible to his hand, so Shindu told him that he could not take someone else's weapon. Disappointed by this, he decided to summon his hoe, but as he struck the goblin, it broke in half, and it smacked his head, causing his soul to leave his body. As he woke up, Shindu told him that he can only be dead for 30 seconds before coming back to life, so he decided to come up with a new plan and asked for Shindu's help in defeating the monster. With her staff, she cast a dust around the goblin, and as Yatsuya rushed forward, it smacked his head, but he impaled it as his soul left his body. Before long, he woke up and asked how they defeated the goblins prior to his arrival, so Shindu told him that they always hid and snuck around the bushes before attacking from a safe distance. Since dying together meant passing on in the real world, they were determined to stay alive and had attacked one after another. Hearing these words, Yatsuya realized that they were completely screwed. That night, he discovered that it would take 5 days before his tools grew back and began wondering how to pass the time. When he asked what would be their reward for completing the quests, Shindu told him that he would be allowed to ask the Game Master a question. After she completed her first quest, she had asked him why he chose her for it, so Mr. Faceless told her that one of her friends had offered her up as a replacement. When the second quest was completed, Hakazaki had asked him who he was, so he told them that he came from the distant future. Wondering what question he would ask, Yatsuya decided to take a walk and clear his mind. However, after eliminating several goblins, he heard Hakazaki screaming and hurried off to her. When he arrived at the burning site, he found her split in half and watched as a huge monster appeared before him and made Shindu his dinner. At the sight of this, Yatsuya grabbed Hakazaki and began running off, afraid of meeting his own doom. The following day, they realized that Hakazaki's hand was not regenerating, having been digested by the monster, and that there would be no curriculum for Shindu until she was rescued from its belly. As Yatsuya decided to check their stats, he discovered that they were completely and hopelessly useless. As they arrived in the village, the people welcomed them as heroes, but Yatsuya knew that he was anything but a hero. When they met the village chief, he introduced himself and told them that their quest was to eliminate the giant troll that was terrorizing the village. After seeing the image of the beast, Yatsuya realized that they were totally fucked. Outside, he wondered how they would take on the monster since they were 2 useless wannabe heroes. But after a moment, he realized that Hakazaki was a far useless hero than he was and decided to ditch her so that he could get the job done himself. However, she ran after him, hoping to support him, but he told her that he intended to level up and was convinced that she would only be a deadweight. In the forest, Yotsuya decided to find some goblins, hoping to level up by slaying them. At his current level, he stood no chance of facing off with the troll, or he would become dinner for the ravenous monster. As he tried heading off, he came across a log point and decided to look into the memories stored inside of it. In the memory, Shindu asked Hakozaki if she was hoping to see a boy join their team, but she told her that she hated all the boys, as she considered them simps and pervs who would do anything to get laid. However, when Shindu told her that she was hoping to see Yotsuya in their group, he became eager to find out if she was talking about him, since there were 2 boys in their class who bore the same name. But at that moment, the log point began vanishing before him. Realizing he may be caught in a harem, Yotsuya decided to become stronger and to have ripping abs that would make the girls fall in love with him, so he set out to work. When he arrived on the mountains, he discovered that he could see the village before him, and before long, he saw a group of goblins in the bushes and swiftly knocked them aside. As he dodged a goblin's attack, he smacked it and stuck another. He was angered by the memories of his depressing life, but decided to allow the last goblin to escape. As he checked the system, he discovered that he was now in the 9th rank, but wondered if he would be able to switch from a farmer to a warrior. He hated that Hakozaki was the only person that could wield a sword, and since she was too useless to use it, he was hoping to become the new swordsman in the team. Before his eyes, the system began counting down, revealing that Hakozaki had been slain, so he hurried off to check the village, and found the houses burning. Realizing they were about to fail their quest, Yotsuya hurried down the mountain, but when he arrived, he found the village empty, and the stats revealed that Hakozaki was not reviving, which made him realize that she had become dinner. As he rushed forward, he found a log point and decided to look inside of it. In the memory, a boy asked Hakozaki why she was trying to learn how to use her sword, so she told him that in her real world, she was too sick to do anything, and that being in this world was the only time she could try to do something. However, she continued feeling terrible that she was a deadweight to the team, yet was determined to help them whenever they needed her. Hearing these words, Yotsuya realized that he had been a useless self-centered buffoon. When the troll attacked the village, Hakozaki had decided to save the boy, but was knocked aside. However, as the monster tried chasing him, she jumped in his way, and managed to block his strike with her shield. Wounded by the impact, she became too exhausted to move, so he grabbed her and ate her out. At that instant, the beast appeared before him, so he began running off, hoping that he would not get eaten, but it jumped behind him and smacked him away. Luckily, he fell into the water and began running again, but the monster flew behind him. As he hurried into the forest, the troll tried jumping on top of him, but he narrowly dodged it and continued running. When it jumped again, Yotsuya realized that he could evade it by moving in a different direction, so he continued running and narrowly dodging it. But as he became tired, the beast began descending on top of him. Luckily, he saw a goblin before him, and as he stuck his stick inside of it, he increased to 10th rank, and the monsters freezed in that instant. The game master appeared behind him, and as he congratulated him for increasing his rank, he began spinning the fortune wheel again. But Yotsuya seemed to be out of luck as he was selected to be a chef. While moping about his disappointment, he realized that he has a kitchen knife on the system and decided to make it his new weapon. As he looked at the monster, he started seeing its organs, and soon realized that he had attained the knowledge to kill and cook his meat through his new chef skill. So when Mr. Faceless decided to unfreeze them, Yotsuya began cutting through its belly, and with the gut opened, Shindu and Hakozaki started appearing. When they wondered why he was wearing a different set of clothes, he told them that he had become a chef, in addition to being a farmer. He told them that he had figured out a way to defeat the troll, and began clattering his knives to draw its attention. But as it jumped, he hurried away, and told the girls to do the same. After a moment, they noticed that the beast was growing tired, so Yotsuya tried impaling it, but got smacked away, while the girls were punched to the ground. After a few hours, they noticed that the troll had lost a lot of ketchup, so Yotsuya suggested a new plan. As he charged towards it, he dodged its strike and went straight into his belly, looking to carve out a large chunk of meat, but was flung away. However, Shindu decided to utilize the distraction, and as she climbed on top of him, she dug her staff into its head, and as she launched air inside of it, it blew up. With the monster dead, the game master appeared again, and congratulated them for completing the quest. After they noticed that their levels had increased, Mr. Faceless told Yotsuya to ask him any question he desired, since he was the hero of the quest. Yotsuya remembered the earlier questions that the girls had asked and decided to ask what their last quest would be, so the master revealed that they would have to battle a mighty dragon. Shocked by this realization, Yotsuya fell to his knees, but shortly realized that he was back into the school. Shindu told them that she was leaving for her tennis practice, and since their next quest was in a few weeks, she was glad that they survived the troll attacks, and thanked Yotsuya for saving her. As she started leaving, she told him to see Hakazaki off. So that afternoon, Yotsuya walked her home. But when they arrived at the station, he realized that the world would be invaded by monsters if he could not annihilate them from the game world. So he became determined to complete all the quests. The following night, he started running through the street, hoping to be fit for the next quest. But the game master began calling his phone and started telling him about a new girl that he intended adding to their team, and directed him to her school so that he could become her friend. As the security began leaving, the game master threatened to screw up the team in the next quest if he failed to make contact with the girl, so he snuck through the corridor and entered the girl's restroom.
Huh? Yeah, boy.
But as he wondered who he came looking for, Mr. Gamer told him to pick the girl in glasses. When one of the girls demanded to know why he was in their restroom, he began to stutter, realizing that he had been too much of a loser to learn how to speak with a girl. After discovering that the girl was recording him, he thought that she may have recorded the girl's plot on her phone, and decided to become her savior. So he grabbed the phone and broke it in half, leaving the girl in tears. However, he soon realized that the other girls may have also made recordings, so he grabbed another girl's phone and smashed it like a crazy dude, before stealing the last phone and splitting it. One girl tried kicking him, but as he blocked her, he realized that his workouts were beginning to pay off. However, the girl started running away, taking him for a creep, and threatened to call the police. That night, as he walked Yuka home, she wondered why this creepy stalker would not take a hike, but he thought that he was becoming a top G, and was beginning to win her over. When he asked her if she was being bullied, she told him that the girls were trying to get back at her for her wrongdoings. Racked by her own guilt, she began crying. But Yotsuya was not certain of what to do, since he had been too much of a creep to be around any girls. But suddenly, she started running off. A few weeks later, Yotsuya vanished into the game world, and found Shindu and Hakazaki waiting for him. But when he saw Yuka, the poor girl began freaking out. However, when Mr. Faceless introduced himself, she freaked out even more. As he spun the wheel for Yuka, it fell to a heat wizard, and in that instant, a wizard cloak appeared on her. Half-Face decided to show them their next quest, and told them that they had to deliver goods to a new village within 40 days, and began vanishing. Yotsuya tried explaining to Yuka that they were in a new world, but she was unwilling to listen, and began calling him a disgusting, creepy stalker. Hearing these words, Hakazaki and Shindu wondered how she met him, so after she told them that he had snuck into the girls' restroom, hoping to see their cherries, they decided to abandon him, and called him a hopeless, nasty simp. Looking to complete the quest sooner, they decided to split up so that they could cover up more distance, but Shindu offered to stay with Yuka until she became familiar with the new world. After a moment, she asked her why she decided to befriend her bullies after Yotsuya broke their phones, so Yuka told her that she had always thought it smarter to have her enemies closer to her. Since she hated the thought of getting bullied again, she had decided to stay close to them, so that they wouldn't pick on her, and at the same time, had agreed to make Yotsuya their common enemy. Shindu told her that she hated bullies since she had been bullied herself, and hoped that Yuka would become brave enough to stay on her own. As they arrived on a field, they realized that the first day of their quest had ended in a total waste. Suddenly, a large monster crashed on the field, and a new monster forced its way out of it, and as it launched a bug at them, the group began running. But as Yotsuya stopped to look, it smacked his face, and the system revealed that he was dead. When Shindu was knocked down by another insect, Yuka decided to summon the power of her staff, but it merely began to glow. However, Yotsuya soon emerged, and as he caught an insect, he summoned his knife and impaled it, before ripping it apart. As another insect flew towards him, he smacked it to the ground and impaled it again. And in that moment, Shindu and Hakazaki realized that he might make a fine husband for the both of them. When the monster began charging towards him, he asked Shindu to step aside while he took on the enemy like a real champ. And as he jumped on top of it, he summoned his knife again and started doing his business, leaving the creature flapping like a fish. Determined to eliminate it, Yotsuya decided to hold Hakazaki's hand, and using her sword, they slayed the monster together, and their stats increased. That night, Shindu woke up from a bad dream and found Yotsuya lifting a rock, so he told her that he was trying to get stronger since he would need all his strength in satisfying his growing harem. However, when he noticed that she was crying, he became curious to know why, as he remembered that she was always confident and graceful at school. When he decided to ask her, she held his hand and told him to rescue her from this hellhole. She began telling him that a few years ago, she had an older sister who decided to hug the ground after she was regularly bullied. And by the time she was in elementary school, her teacher also began bullying her and called her a disgraceful fatso. However, her friends started supporting her, and soon she realized that they were important to her and that she was responsible for what happens in her own future. But unluckily, she had found herself on this strange island, and the game master had told her that she would be responsible for everyone's safety when new members were added to her team. Afraid of losing everyone and herself, she decided to ask Yotsuya for his help in completing the quests. The following day, they arrived in the village and discovered that it was deserted. When they came across a traveler, he told them that he had been moving across the village for years and had always found it empty. Confused by his words, Yotsuya wondered if they were on a different island, but decided to ask for directions to Reidoderbo, which was far away on the map. So the traveler told them that the city was on the edge of the continent, and that it would take 90 days to arrive on foot. Looking to utilize her feminine charm, Shindu decided to ask for his horse. However, the man was a top G and would not simp for her like a hormonal teenager, so he suggested that they enter the martial arts tournament in a nearby town, who were offering 3 horses as a reward for the winner. As he rode off, the team realized that their new priority was getting a horse, so Yotsuya suggested leveling up before they entered the tournament. While they were walking through the forest, a group of bandits jumped in their way, and after realizing that the team were a band of wannabe heroes, they threatened to sell them off to the lord of a faraway island. So the team summoned their weapons, and as a bandit attacked Yotsuya, he dodged and slashed his arm, but the system reduced his rank, as he was only allowed to attack monsters. At this realization, Yotsuya began backing away and told the girls to run, but as they did, Shindu tried unleashing the wind in her staff. By the time the team arrived at a safe spot, they realized that she never made it and was already captured by the bandits. When Hakazaki suggested saving her, Yotsuya told her that their individual safety was irrelevant to the quest, and that she would be returning to the real world once their quest was completed. Yuka called him a shameless, sickening loser, but he still would not budge. Since Shindu arrived on the island before him, he considered her a higher rank and believed that he had no duty to rescue her. Having said this, he told the girls to rescue her on their own, as he intended to enter the tournament and flex his muscles. Before long, the girls were also captured by the bandits, and at this discovery, Yotsuya realized that they were all completely useless and decided to slay a few goblins instead. After ranking up again, the wheel began spinning, and as it fell to wizard creature, he transformed into a new outfit. Afterwards, the system revealed that he had lost all his stats. In the new town, Yotsuya readied himself for the tournament, hoping to win so that he could rescue the girls. After summoning a cleaver, he began charging towards the knight, but before long, he was already slain, and the winner was declared. As he woke up, he realized that he would never be anything but a horrendous and hopeless failure. However, the knight felt bad for him and decided to introduce herself as Kaval, telling him that she had always hoped to meet a hero from another world. But Yotsuya could care less and decided to ask for her horses, saying that he had to reach the end of the continent within a few days, and in return was offering to lead her army to a bandit's hideout. So she led him to the commander's office, and he thanked Yotsuya for his help, but told him that they could only offer him 1 horse. With no other options, he decided to accept their offer. As they walked through the town that evening, Kaval suggested that they spar with their sword before their ambush on the bandits. She thought that he was terrible at the tournament and was looking to teach him a few tricks to save his ass in a real battle, so he agreed to train with her. As they prepared for their sparring, Yotsuya decided to separate his stick from the hoe, telling her that he could not use a sword. Afterwards, they faced off, and as Yotsuya slashed towards her, she dodged and knocked off his stick before slamming his head, knocking him, and jabbing his gut. As Yotsuya lay exhausted on the floor, He realized that he was every bit as useless in this world as he is in the real world. That night, after 2 bandits were slain, Kaval appeared and commanded her army to attack their hideout. However, one bandit alerted the others, and a battle ensued, but as a man slashed at Yotsuya, he blocked and punched his face. Realizing they were losing the fight, the bandits decided to open up a mysterious cage and began running away. As a monster came out of the darkness, he bent the bar under his foot and roared to the sky. When Yotsuya wondered what he was, Kaval told him that he was a powerful monster that ate people for breakfast. And as he grabbed a sword, he began slashing at the soldiers, so Kaval ran towards him, but he broke her shield. Determined to defeat him, she drew her ridiculously long sword and charged towards him again as they began clashing swords. When Kaval's sword went flying off, the monster tried splitting her, but Yotsuya blocked with his cleaver. The beast tried slaying him, but Yotsuya unleashed the power of his wizard creature and commanded him to look back. As he slashed backwards, Yotsuya impaled him, but he merely picked him and cut him down. With that distraction, Kaval slashed his head off. In the hideout, Shindu thanked Yotsuya for rescuing them, but he told them that he lost the tournament and was only able to get 1 horse. With the girls looking disappointed, Kaval offered to escort them to their destination, but in return was hoping to train them on how to use a sword. So the following day, Yotsuya thanked the lord of the city and set out with the team. While traveling, Kaval suggested camping for the night, so that evening, Yotsuya made soup for everyone. With Hakazaki looking sad, Shindu wondered if she was sad due to seeing the bandits slain, so she confessed that the memory of it was stuck to her mind, and since she had such a weak stomach, she was convinced that she would vomit her food if she tried eating. She told Shindu that she wished to protect everyone, but was angry at herself as she continued to be a burden for the team. She wished to become stronger, but even in her dreams she continued to be a useless weakling. A few minutes later, Kaval tried teaching her how to use a sword. However, when she realized that she was too weak and useless to use it, she decided to give up on her. At that moment, her companions arrived and told her that they were attacked by goblins while trying to gather firewood. That night, as Yotsuya was healing one of the men with his healing magic, Hakazaki became sadder and was convinced that she was the most ugly and useless person alive. The following day, Hakazaki began clashing swords with Kaval, hoping to gain experience points and become stronger. But after switching to her longsword, she discovered that she could not lift it and was still the same disgusting loser she always was. So Kaval decided to put her out of her misery and smacked her head. A few hours later, Kaval's companion, Makua, hurried to inform them that a group of goblins were hiding in the forest. So Yotsuya offered to slay them in hopes of gaining more experience points. And as he hurried off, the girls followed him. After he slashed a goblin, Yuka casted her spell while Shindu blasted another. Spotting a goblin, Hakazaki became afraid, but as it jumped towards her, she impaled it with her sword and began crying. That night, as they gathered around the fire, Hakazaki remained sad and miserable. When Yotsuya said that he was disappointed that his rank was not increased, she merely stared at her hands. The next day, while they were traveling, they came across another group of travelers who were being attacked by monsters. When Hakazaki decided to rescue them, Yotsuya told her that they had only a few days left to arrive at their destination, and that they could not continue stopping every 5 minutes for pee breaks. However, she was determined to prove herself and suggested going alone. But the team thought that she would become sushi for the monsters, so Yotsuya decided to join her for support and told the others to continue traveling, as he promised to join them once the business was settled. As they began heading towards the monsters, they realized that only a few of the travelers were left. In that instant, the beasts began roaring at them, having noticed their presence, so they charged forward and summoned their weapons. But as Yotsuya struck a monster with his pan, Hakazaki was knocked back and eaten. When his pan was flung away, Yotsuya tried using his wizard skill to command the beast, but it ate his hand. However, he stuck it in the eye and flew at it with his knife, but when he tried ending it, another beast ended him. At the sight of this, Hakazaki wondered why she was trying to become a hero when she had no chance at ever becoming one. So as she returned into her body, she began to leave, but a monster spotted her and started rushing towards her, and as it flew to end her, she summoned her longsword and impaled its neck. When Yotsuya woke up, he found a carriage heading towards him, so after calling for the monster's attention, he started running towards it, but Kaval split it in an instant. With the monsters defeated, Yotsuya began healing a traveler with his magic. He told the girls that he had absorbed magic from the monsters, and through this magic, was able to increase his MP and use his healing ability. two travelers told him that they were from a faraway kingdom, and that they had been commanded to transport a few heretics to Raid Oderbo, which was the team's destination. With the men considered to be criminals, the leader Camilto said that they would be executed once they arrived in the city. However, Cobble decided to confront him, demanding to know why he intended to slay his own people in another lord's city. But he told her to mind her fucking business. Looking to end each other, they decided to draw their weapons, but Shindu stood in their way to separate them. After a few minutes, the team began wondering if escorting the prisoners to Raid Oderbo was their true quest. However, they were not certain that it was the right thing to do and thought that it may be a test from the game master. Yuka suggested heading to the city with the travelers, but stopping the execution before it happened. So after considering the thought, they decided to agree. As they began traveling again, Yotsuya continued healing the young prisoner, but he remained unconscious. After a few hours, Camilto suggested camping for the night, but Cobble had grown angry and thought that he was a rotten evil man who should not be dishing out orders to anyone. However, Shindu reminded her that they had asked to travel with him. That evening, Yotsuya decided to ask one of the travelers why the prisoners had to be executed, so he told them the story. Their cities were divided between the people who served the king and the people who served both the king and a god. However, when they began fighting for control over the cities, the king decided to eliminate everyone who supported the religion and commanded for their execution wherever they were found, which included the young traveler. That night, Yotsuya asked Camilto why the prisoners had to be executed, so he told him that they were being made a scapegoat by the king. Yuka was convinced that it was a cruel fate for the prisoners and called the king a deranged maniac. Hearing these words, Camilto grabbed his weapon and was looking to end her in the name of his king. But Yotsuya stopped him and promised to stay out of his business. The next day, as they arrived at the mountains, Camilto told Yotsuya that it would take them a week to arrive at the city. However, with the team having only 13 days left to complete their quest, they wondered if they would make it in time. Camilto suggested that they take a shorter route that was hidden from everyone, so they started pushing the carriage through the mountains and eventually arrived at a cave. Inside the cave, Camilto told them that the secret path leading to the city was created over 1,000 years ago, but was impossible to find by anyone since it was hidden out of sight. Excited by the thought of taking a shortcut, the group decided to follow his directions. However, when they arrived deep inside the cave, a stone wall sealed them in. With the group trapped, Camilto told them that he could not continue traveling with them, since they were starting to feel sorry for his prisoners and were demanding for their freedom. He believed that they would try to stop their execution, and thought it better to abandon them before they reached the city. Having no other options, Cobble suggested that they follow the route so they could stop him before he met the king and eliminate him for his betrayal. As they continued through the cave, they arrived at an area full of traps, but as Yotsuya studied the ancient symbols on the wall, he hurried to a set of pillars, and as he turned it, the giant boulders stopped moving. With this success, the group finally crossed the bridge, and as they arrived at a free path, Yotsuya expected an easy passage, but as he started walking, the walls smashed him away, making the group realize that the walls were a trap. After Yotsuya woke up in a pit, he told the group to abandon him and complete the quest on their own, as he promised to join them once he found a way out. The girls tried to come up with a plan, and soon discovered that they had only a few seconds to hurry across the passage before the walls ejected. Looking to explore their plan, Shindu decided to walk through the passageway, so as the walls retracted, she began hurrying to the other side. With this success, she encouraged the group to walk across the passageway. However, when they arrived, they realized that they had come to a dead end. Luckily, they found a hidden door, and as they went through to the other side, they discovered that they were in an ancient arena and saw a strange monster before them. In the meantime, Yotsuya summoned his cleaver and started hacking the wall, realizing that he could make holes for climbing. Within a few minutes, he had begun working his way to the top, but after hacking a new hole, he tried climbing, but slipped, and as he hit the ground, his soul left his body. He started hacking another hole, but at that moment, his flame went out, so he tried feeling the hole with his hand, but slipped again. As he stood up, he started climbing, but slipped yet again. However, he started climbing again, determined to come out of the pit, and before long, he pulled himself out. In the passage, he tried feeling the walls with his hand, but tripped on a platform, since he could not see anything in the darkness. As he started walking again, he saw a log point before him and decided to touch it. Inside the memory, the group were crying over Cobble's companion, who had been slain by Camilto in his attempt to run away. As the log vanished, Yotsuya realized that the man was lying before him and started remembering their time together. He was sad that he could not see him as he passed on, but decided to say his goodbyes, and soon began to leave. Meanwhile, the girls watched as a robot monster came to life and started walking towards them, looking to slay them like an enemy. After slashing a few bats, Kaval and Shindu began running towards it. Kaval thought that she could defeat it, and after spotting the key on its arm, she realized that eliminating it was their only way out of the arena. So she attacked with her sword and began telling Shindu that she believed in her talents and encouraged her to continue training in the real world. But suddenly, the robot impaled her, and as her sword fell, she began falling into the water. At this realization, Shindu started backing away, and as she stepped on a bat, the monster tried eliminating her, but froze up in an instant. Shindu remembered that Yotsuya had told her that time freezes when they acquire 10 ranks, and at that instant, the game master appeared before her, and decided to spin the fortune wheel. Utilizing her opportunity, Shindu charged towards the robot, and as she transformed into a warrior, she smacked her sword on it. However, it was unscathed, and as it slashed her arm, she began sliding towards the edge, but managed to dodge its attack. She summoned her sword, realizing that her arm was healed up, and decided to face off with it. When the bats tried distracting her, she waved them off and summoned her wizard hat and a shield. After discovering that the monster was wounded, she remembered that Kaval had once told her to attack the heart of her opponent, since it was easier eliminating them than trying to wound them. So she started charging towards it, and as she blocked its attack, she tried stabbing it, but he slashed her arm off. When he tried destroying her, she blocked with her shield, and as she climbed on top of him, she caught her sword and stabbed its neck, causing it to shut down. At the same time, Yotsuya was running through the passage, and remembered when he tried saving his friends from a bear several years ago. He was convinced that everyone's position on the game world was determined by their acts in the real world, and since he always made himself the leader in the real world, he had taken up the role of a leader in this world. As he arrived outside, he watched as the robot fell, but when Makua told him that Kaval was in the water, he jumped in to save her. A few hours later, Kaval woke up and discovered that her wound had been healed, so Makua told her that Yotsuya summoned magic from the monster's blood, and through this magic was able to increase his MP and heal her before passing out. She told them that Yotsuya reminded her of herself and that he's been trying to discover himself the same way she did. She decided to tell them her story. In her city, every knight was ranked by a unique number which was used to determine their abilities. And although she was ranked 70 out of 100 knights and 3,000 fighters, she still felt like an utter failure. With her father ranked 2nd and her brother ranked 15th, her number was nothing to be proud of, but was meant to remind her that she would continue to be useless. That night, as Yotsuya woke up, he told the girls that they were on a wrong quest. Since the game master never told them what to do, Yotsuya was convinced that it could have been a simple task of transporting real goods. After all, they were not charged with delivering prisoners, nor were they promised money in return. At this realization, the team began to stutter and wondered what was the right thing to do. Hakozaki was unwilling to abandon the young prisoner and suggested that they rescue them anyway, so to aid in their quest, Yotsuya decided to split up the team. He intended to send a few of them to capture Kamilto before he entered the city, while the rest of them would have to find a way to deliver goods of any kind. With their time running out, he was convinced that they were better off trying multiple options, rather than depending on one of them. So that night, they decided that Yotsuya, Yuka, and Kaval would trail Kamilto, while the rest of the group would try to figure out a way of getting hired for work. The following night, with the other half of the group gone, Kaval suggested that they eliminate Kamilto before he informed the king about their presence, so Yotsuya decided to come up with a plan. After a few days, they found Kamilto and his companions traveling through the mountains, but merely watched them leave, as they intended to trail them from a distance. That night, Hakozaki asked Yotsuya if they were really in a virtual world, and why they were able to fall asleep. Since they could feel a bit of pain, but were not in their own world, she wondered if they were meant to consider these islands another world of its own. However, Yotsuya had no answer for her, so he decided to leave. At the same time in Kamilto's camp, he told his soldiers that watching the prisoners get executed would be the happiest day of his life after Christmas, and was looking to take in the sight. However, Yotsuya showed up before them, and with the men looking afraid, he threatened to annihilate everyone. When they wondered how he made it out of the caves, he told them that he ate his friends for breakfast and picked his teeth with their bones. And somehow, the dumbasses believed his lie. He told them that he and Yuka were the sole survivors and threatened to make the prisoners his dinner. That night, Kamilto suggested that they capture both of them and seal them away in a mummy's tomb forever. But Yuka approached them and offered to aid in Yotsuya's capture. She told them that she had never liked him and believed that getting rid of him would grant her as much freedom as she desired. But Kamilto suggested that she was looking to distract them, while Yotsuya freed the prisoners from their cell. Hoping to convince them, she offered to lead them to Yotsuya's camp, so they agreed. But Kamilto threatened to take her as his new prisoner if they discovered she was leading them into a trap. They began escorting her to his camp, but when they realized they were basically wandering aimlessly, a soldier impaled her for time wasting and started returning to their camp, taking her as their prisoner. But as they arrived, they found Yotsuya, who told them that he had eaten the prisoners and was hoping to see Kamilto executed by the king as payback for abandoning them in the cave. Having said these words, he decided to burn the bodies so that the truth would not be discovered. Utilizing their distraction, Yuka cast a spell on the rope, and as it burned off, she tried running, but Kamilto held her cloak. Desperate to escape, she selected new clothes on the system and jumped over the flames. But as her ropes burned off, she selected her old clothes again and ran off. Before long, she met Yotsuya on a horse, and they rode off together as Kamilto and his companion ran after them. A few minutes ago, when Kamilto left with Yuka to capture Yotsuya, he had knocked out a soldier, and after freeing the prisoners, he put the soldier in their clothes. Yotsuya was hoping that Kamilto would tell the king that Kabul and her companions were dead, so he would be blamed for the destruction, and avoid both kingdoms from going to war. Meanwhile, Shindu and her team were disappointed at being unable to find a new wagon. They had traveled for days, and with no signs of getting assigned to transport goods, they were worried about failing the quest and getting stuck in this fake world forever. Nakua suggested that they continue searching. However, with only a few days left, the girls thought it would be a wasted effort. In the meantime, Yotsuya and Yuka arrived on a cliff, and as they spotted a cave, they decided to look inside. In the cave, they found the prisoners, who were happy to see them, and began thanking them for their rescue. Several hours ago, while the team were deciding on a plan, Yuka had asked Yotsuya if they had to burn a soldier along with stuffed sacks to represent the prisoners. Although they were in some new world, she thought that eliminating someone in this world was the same as eliminating a person in their own world. However, Yotsuya began telling her that they were in some futuristic technology and was designed to look like a real world. Since they could summon weapons out of thin air and choose a new skill from a virtual system, he was convinced that this world was dead-ass fake. The next day, as they were about to leave for the city, Yuka offered to ride one of the horses. But as they rode off, she noticed that Kabul was looking at Yotsuya and concluded that she was beginning to fall in love with him, so she decided to make it her life's mission to join them together. When they stopped for a break, Kabul tried talking to Yotsuya, but after spotting someone, she decided to leave. As they continued traveling, Yuka became more determined to bring them together, but as she was swaying on her horse, the boys thought that she was a weird little creep. So that evening, she suggested that Yotsuya and Kabul train together, hoping that Kabul would confess her feelings to him. But after their sparring, Kabul summoned her for training and began chasing her. At night, as Yotsuya was sitting by the fire, Kabul appeared before him, and after sitting beside him, she decided to thank him for helping her to avenge the death of her slain companion. She had been hoping to be alone with him so that she could thank him for it. Having said these words, she bid him goodnight and fell asleep. Meanwhile, Shindu and Hakazaki arrived at a town and offered to transport goods for a merchant. But as he accepted, another dude appeared from the cargo and told them to scram. When Shindu was unwilling to leave, the dude decided to attack her, but she dodged and sent his sword flying off before pointing her sword at him. Having no other choice, they agreed to divide their items with them, so the girls began riding off to the city. In the meantime, Yotsuya and his team were continuing their travels, so Yotsuya decided to tell Yuka his plans for completing the quest. Since they were uncertain of what they needed to deliver to the city, he thought it smarter to have a variety of options to choose from, and hoped that one of his options would qualify for the quest, with the prisoners included as another option. After arriving in the city, Yotsuya and Yuka delivered their items to the lord of the city, and at that moment, the system revealed that they had completed their first quest. That evening, as the team reunited, they discovered that they had one more quest to complete, so in hopes of getting back at Yotsuya for splitting up the team, the girls suggested that they split up again. After a few minutes, they all headed out in separate directions, looking to walk across the island within a few hours. However, before going too far, it began to snow, and in a matter of minutes, the snowing became intense. Yotsuya decided to check the system, and selected the wizard clothes for additional warmth. As he resumed walking, he wondered if this world was truly real. After all, he could feel this dreadful cold, the same way he could feel warmth. And with the temperature continuing to drop, he wondered if passing out in the snow would be the end of him, since it was impossible to revive in an environment they cannot survive in. Yotsuya was afraid that falling unconscious would mean staying dead forever. Hoping to stay warm, he decided to do some knee lifts and began walking again. In the meantime, Yuka was also forcing her way through the snow, hating every moment of it. After resting for a moment, she realized that she could freeze to her death, so she began walking again. Meanwhile, Hakozaki was also walking through the snow and was using her shield for her protection. As the wind blew on her, she would not give up and continued walking. She remembered her first time on the islands, when she was selected to be a warrior. Shindu had been very happy to see her and had quickly introduced herself. That day, Shindu had slain a goblin as their first quest together, but Hakozaki had merely stared at her, too afraid to move. When she tried apologizing, Shindu hugged her and told her that having her by her side was enough for her. Her words had inspired her to become better and to help her team whenever she can. With these thoughts, she became inspired again and continued walking. At the far side of the island, Shindu tried protecting herself with her hat and discovered that she was alone on the island for the first time. She remembered that when she first arrived on the island and had been assigned on a quest by the game master, she had asked him to teleport one of her friends to this world so that they could offer her some support, but he told her that she had to complete it on her own. Having relied on her friends, Shindu had been very disappointed. And now, having to walk all by herself, she was reminded of that painful memory, but she became determined to make it this time. However, she came across a huge statue on the way, and realized that it was the end of the road for her. At the same time, Hakozaki was exhausted from walking, and started wondering where she was since the snow had made it impossible for her to see, and so she fell. As she tried getting up, she discovered that she had lost every strength in her body. Meanwhile, Yotsuya was resting beside a rock when he discovered that the girls had stopped walking. With 10 kilometers left to cover, he wondered if they could make it in 6 hours in the dreadful snow. Since one person had to stay alive, he knew that the team were depending on him to complete the quest. As he looked back, he saw a snow monster standing before his eyes, looking to make him her dinner. When he tried running, she punched his back. But when she tried smashing him, he ran off. The monster prepared to attack again, but he summoned his knife and slashed her. With his time running out and the beast stopping him from leaving, he decided to face off with her. He summoned his pan and flew towards her, but she knocked him back. Desperate to eat him, she began charging towards him, but he managed to slay her. At that moment, her babies hurried out of hiding, crying for their mother, but Yotsuya was only glad that he was not their late night snack, and decided to leave. As he continued walking again, realizing that he still had more distance to cover, he started thinking about his friends, and became determined to complete the quest. However, as he took a step, he began falling into a great pit, but the memories of his friends were on his mind. At the same time, Hakozaki's soul was trying to return into her body, but since she was frozen, it was impossible for her to come awake. On the other hand, the system informed Shindu that Hakozaki was not waking up, so she decided to find another way around the statue. As she started walking again, she discovered that the wind was beginning to cease, and shortly she saw a town at the distance. Pleased with her discovery, she began walking towards it, hoping to find a carriage that she could use in moving Hakozaki out of the snow. However, as she took a step, the ice cracked, and as she hurried further, it continued cracking. But as she realized this, the ice broke under her feet. Meanwhile, Yotsuya woke up inside an ancient dungeon and was surprised to see himself revived. Since he was uncertain as to where he was falling to, he had made himself believe that he was falling into the mouth of a monster and would stay in its belly, never to be revived again. As he wondered where he was, he decided to take a walk around, hoping to cover the remaining distance by wandering through the dungeon. However, as the system revealed that Hakozaki and Shindu were not reviving, he discovered that he had also arrived at a dead end. So he decided to head in another direction, but met another dead end. As he walked again, he met another dead end, so he started crawling through a hole. But as he made his way out, he discovered that he was inside a pit, and that he was never getting out. At that moment, the ground began to quake, and as a worm emerged from the ground, it smashed into him. but shortly he started following it through the ground, hoping that it would dig its way out. Since the worm could not devour him, he thought it would be safer to stay close and follow it. However, the ground began to quake again, and another worm appeared behind him. Yotsuya hoped that it was another friendly worm, but it swallowed him in that instant. Outside, Yuka had started walking again, but as she discovered that the rest of the team were not reviving, she broke down and decided to give up. Since everyone else was dead, she considered it an excuse to also surrender. However, her imaginary fairy appeared before her eyes and encouraged her to continue with her quest, so she picked up her staff and unleashed a blast of warmth on herself. As her crush led the way, she began following him. However, after a long walk, she started growing tired, but as she almost fell asleep, she saw a lady on a giant cat. The lady offered to drop her off at the town, and as they rode off, she told her that she was lucky to have survived the storm. But at that instant, the system revealed that she had only 3 minutes to complete the quest. But with several distances left to cover, Yuka thought that she was hopeless and was better off hanged. As she started crying, the lady decided to help her, so with the power of her staff, she blasted them forward. Yuka asked her if she was from another world, but she told her that she's a magic user, and as she summoned more power from her staff, she launched them forward as the seconds ran down. Luckily, the team made it, but before Yuka could celebrate her victory, Mr. Headless appeared behind her, causing her to freak out. As a reward for her victory, he told her to ask him any question. After a careful thought, she decided to ask him if they were really in some virtual world. So Mr. Headless began telling her about the universe. He said that there were several parallel universes existing at the same time, and since he was a powerful being, he had the ability to travel between different worlds and to move the team across each world. He told them that this game world was not a virtual reality like they had thought, but was really another world like Earth. And on top of that, they were the ones who were virtual. At these words, Yotsuya realized that he had made some terrible decisions. But in an instant, he was back to the real world and was feeling guilty for burning the soldier. Although he hated everyone and thought that his city was a shithole, he had never imagined having to end someone. A few weeks later at school, Hakazaki told Shindu that she had gained some stamina and could play a bit of sports now. She believed that her experience from the other world was starting to help her in this one. However, as they watched Yotsuya all by himself, they realized that they had not spoken to him since they returned to their world. When Yuka told them about the burned soldier, they were equally shocked and had decided to stay away from him. That day, after Yotsuya checked his locker, he started heading home. In the street, he received a message from the game master, who was asking to know how he felt since he had become a killer. Shocked by the question, Yotsuya decided to delete it. However, when he arrived home, a little girl appeared before him and demanded to know why he refused to respond to the message. When Yotsuya asked her who she was, she told him that he could only ask a question if he won a quest. And with these words, he realized that the game master had taken her form. He began telling her that he considered Kamilto and his soldiers to be bad people, and since they were trying to execute innocent people, he had concluded that they also deserved to be eliminated. However, he regretted his decision and thought that he would have been better off freeing the prisoners and abandoning Kamilto. Having said his last words, the girl decided to tell him about the next boy that would be added to their team, and that Yotsuya had to meet him first, the same way he met Yuka. So after a few minutes, they arrived at a restaurant. The girl told him that the new player was in a and would be sent to eliminate a former member. She told him that his name was Tori, and that Yotsuya must stop him from eliminating anyone. All of a sudden, a group of boys burst inside and began charging towards the man with their weapons. Yotsuya tripped one boy and tried preaching peace to their lost souls, but the boy smacked him with his baton. As he grabbed it, he blocked another boy's attack and threw his food at them. When the last one began charging towards him, he kicked him into a wall. With his brother wounded, Fake Ninja swung his baton at him, but he dodged and pulled his mask off. With his identity revealed, he advised the boy to return home and stopped him from chasing the man. At that moment, the boss showed up and aimed his gun at Yotsuya. However, the girl decided to give him a magical glove that would freeze everyone in an instant. As the boss threatened to end him, he put on the glove and rushed forward, summoning the magic in it and freezing him in that moment before knocking him out. Before Yotsuya left, he warned the boy Tori to run away from the police. When his boss tried shooting him, Tori kicked off the gun and called him a hopeless, disgusting loser who should take his loss as a badge of honor. That evening on a rooftop, the girl decided to ask Yotsuya if he still felt bad for burning the soldier, but he told her that he had no answer for her. However, he believed that rescuing Tori would serve as an advantage for him in the next quest, the same way Yuka served as an advantage for the team. After all, they only managed to complete the quest because she found a way to pull through. Having said these words, he believed that they would successfully complete their next quest.